Hello, welcome to Your Real, Your Ideal podcast. Sandy, how are you doing today?
Wonderful. Hello, Amy, and hello, everyone. Um, yeah, it's a beautiful spring is going to sprung here pretty soon, I think. I'm pretty excited. Amy and I were just quickly talking about what the comparing notes on the weather and what it looks like. And I think I'm going to have a lunch outside and not have to wear a jacket. So with
That
sunshine.
that's awesome. We are not quite there yet in Omaha today. We're in the 50s, so it's still a little chilly,
50s is
but
nice.
I feel like we're getting closer,
Mhm.
closer to spring, closer to summer. I'm super excited. Um, I'm just super excited for summer to be sitting outside and doing stuff like that. So today we're talking about get her done. That's our topic today. And it's we have you and I we have a lot of stuff going on,
Mhm.
and how and I'm just going to tell you, when I was looking at our notes, and I could talk about this all day long. So you're going to have to cut me off and say, Amy, we're only targeting for 30 minutes, so keep me on track.
Sandy's in
But
charge of time. All right.
I know.
Let's see
But
how that goes.
yeah, you'll have to signal me, time out, stop. um so get her done. This is about projects. This is about starting and finishing things. Okay. What are your thoughts on this?
I have a lot of thoughts on this because this is something I deal with every day.
Mhm.
Um, and part of this came up yet another I love to take new things on. I am from a Gallup Strengths. I'm high in activator, which means I love to start things, and I have a lot of creative ideas. I have a lot of interests, so I am the queen of starting things, and I have a hard time getting everything to cross the line. And then what it causes for me is it causes stress because I really want to get these things done. And then all the things that should be fun aren't that much fun anymore because I've started a lot of things that I can't get done. And it takes away everything I'm trying to accomplish by having a good quality of life when I do this. So that's probably the summation for me. How about you, Amy?
Yeah, and I'm just going to share some psychology about your starting. Um, I took a class many years ago, and
Okay.
it was about working with creatives.
Mhm.
And people who are creative have this adrenaline when it comes to starting things, because they're like, oh, all these creative ideas. And so they get excited. And then when it becomes a little bit routine and boring, they want to go through that process again of creating and getting that excitement and that rush. So what you experience is pretty typical of people who are creative. So give yourself some grace.
And it's actually validated through my work, let's just say in finance. My longtime work is I love building things, building people, creating excellence, and I hate status quo. The
Yeah.
minute we get to the point, I like to create the workflows and maximize. And once they're created, I am the worst person to put in charge of maintaining. And so I would just tell you, thank you for that psychology. And well, I guess you have a creative side in everything you do. I was going to say my non-creative side, but I think everything has a bit of creativity for me. But
Yeah.
it's got I'm validating
Yeah.
your diagnosis.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a diagnosis. It's just what I've learned,
I like it.
because that's a lot of people I work with have that same thing. And so, and even I have challenges with it. And that's like how I'm like coaching people on how to finish, how to be productive. And I have challenges. And actually, I'm going to pull my sticker off because this is my word this year. And
Yep.
this is one of the reasons this topic came up, because my word is finish. And
Keep talking, Amy. People
I
can't see
told you
that I'm grabbing something.
my issue with having a word for the year is I can't do a whole year. Oh, hey, that looks like my bracelet.
That is your bracelet.
I love it. Woohoo, I'm so excited. um, but I told you with picking a word, I can't do a whole year word because
Right.
it seems too too much of a commitment. I was always having trouble. So you gave me permission to only do a 90-day word. And
There
so
is no signed contract with the word. It's if you want to throw it away after a day, there will be no retribution. It's fine.
well, and to that point, I did this the beginning of January and what we're in the middle of March, and I'm very attached to this word because I haven't finished yet. So I've got many things I'm trying to finish, but my biggest one is my book. And I'm discovering there's a lot of things. It's so interesting to me to apply how I coach other people to finish things to myself and having myself as the subject and seeing the things that I do. That is exactly what my clients do all the time. And my biggest thing right now is I've got these papers here. This is my book. I've printed out stuff. I've had somebody helping me because I identified I needed an accountability partner.
Mhm.
I'm not really good at holding myself accountable. And, but I'm still overwhelmed. Okay. So I was working on it last weekend. I got overwhelmed again because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just overwhelmed. So I sat on it all week and didn't do anything. And then I realized I need to break it into small chunks of time because I keep thinking I have to dedicate a weekend to it because I'm not having time during the week. And I decided I'm now an early morning
Nice.
getting on it for a half an hour and just working on one page of it and then moving on and coming back to it the next day so that it's in smaller chunks.
And you started this a week ago?
No, I came to the realization last night that that's what I
That
need to
was
do.
last night. Okay. Okay. You came to the
Because
realization
I know.
because you were a week into it not working. Okay.
Yeah, I
You
was a week
haven't,
into it. Yeah,
did you do it this morning?
I did not do it this morning
Okay,
because I
so
had an
maybe
early
next
morning call.
Okay.
But this podcast is really, this topic on the podcast really made me do some introspection of what's going on here. Why am I like this? What am I doing? Why am I not moving forward on it? And so what can I do to get through that, get over that hump? And so it just came to the realization last night. I had a 6:30 a.m. call this morning, so I did not get on it this morning, but I'm going to try to do it
I love
starting
it.
tomorrow.
Coming up with a good strategy. And I think one thing in my thinking through and analyzing and thinking through this topic was, you know, how I always focus on the why. Sometimes we focus on the how, you know, so everybody here, buy your journal. This is how you do it. I like to go back to the why, you know,
Yeah.
why are you not getting things done? And for me, it's usually because I take on too much. Okay. That would be kind of the recurring theme. I would say I have a son that the why he doesn't get things done is he overthinks things and he wants perfection. And for us to both get to our goal of finishing things and completing things, we have a different reason why we're not getting there. So I can give him all the journals in the world, and that really, they may help, but there's probably some better tactics for him to get it over the line. And for him, back to having an accountability partner, I give him permission to not be perfect. And I tell him why it's okay. You know, maybe you test it out. It's talking through why making a final decision on one thing is okay, even if you don't feel 100% about it. You got to move. But our
Right.
whys are different. So there's different strategies. Mine is I take on too much. I got to get rid of some stuff because there isn't enough time to finish it all. Because finishing honestly takes more time than coming up with the idea. And
Oh,
did you find anything in your research what that ratio is? There's got to be a average ratio to that.
For the starting and finishing?
Yeah, because like I can start 10 things, but is it a 10-to-1 that it's going to take me 10 times more time to finish one project than to come up with the idea and get it started?
You know what, Sandy, I didn't find anything in the research, but I'm guessing it's different for every single person
Okay.
because some people are good finishers. like they like to close the loop. They start, they finish, but they're only doing one thing at a time. You know what I mean? Like they're very good at focusing on one thing, and they may not have the creativity, and the adrenaline rush comes from the finishing, not
Right.
from the creating. So I didn't find anything information on that. Um, I did find some things on, let me see, I found an article that was called Hold Yourself Accountable, Why It Matters and How to Do It. And um, this was, I connected with this article because
Okay.
this is so me. I think about back when I was pregnant, I was talking to a girlfriend. She was pregnant at the same time. And I was talking to her about how good I was when I was pregnant about eating well, exercising, and taking my vitamins. And when I'm not pregnant, I'm not very good at that. And I realized that the baby was holding me accountable. I was doing it for someone else
Right.
instead of for
Get
myself.
that.
I know. And so it was easy to have that accountability and to get stuff done. Um, Whereas when it's for myself, I'm not as good as doing it. I'm not as much of a priority as, does that make sense?
It
Does
makes a
that?
ton of sense because where I would equate that with myself, because it's very similar in a different way, is I have this big laundry list of things that I need to do and get done that I look at it, I'm like, this is just impossible if I tag a time on all these things to get them done. But you know what I'm most motivated to do? The ones that I have a Zoom call coming up.
Oh, yeah,
I'm not going to show up to that Zoom call unprepared. And
right.
I'll tell you the trick I do with myself, for instance, with my website and my creative ventures and some of my workshops, I have an ongoing weekly call with my assistant, and he and I have that call. And do we really need that call? Because is there an agenda? No, it keeps me going because it keeps me feeding him with things, keep getting done with what I say I'm going to get done with, holding a deadline, but he holds me accountable because otherwise I would feel disappointed in myself if I showed up to that meeting and did not have fresh things for him or that I'm pushing it forward. So
Right.
I totally get what you're saying, Amy. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what gets done first in my world.
He's your accountability partner.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I'm the one putting on the calendar. He's not pushing me, but I'm not going to show up to that meeting
right.
without new content movement. There's a couple of times where I'm like, oh, I don't really have much this week. And I'm telling you, I don't feel good about it.
Yeah. I'm completely with you. That's why I have someone helping me with my book. The exact same reason is she's sending me stuff, and she needs me to do things to keep her moving forward.
Right.
And if she's waiting on me, then it's like, okay, I got to get this done for her. And that's exactly why I brought her into the picture. Of course, I was texting her last weekend, and she's like, okay, call me because we need to have a, because I'm like, she's like, she's really good at calming me down too and saying, okay, we're okay. You can do this. Like, here are the next steps so I can
Which is great.
stop being overwhelmed. I know.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to give you an example. So Garrett and I'm a great starter and he's a great finisher. And we work together, not on everything, but we have probably half of our projects are joint projects that we work on together. And people, what I can tell you is I'll say that when we're on a call after our clients have gotten to know working with us. And I'll say, I start things, he finishes things. And right away, it's like they get it. They're like, oh my gosh, bingo. And they love that about us as a team. Okay. So that's really good for us. And it's good for me to acknowledge. But what I tell you is when you just got done saying finishers just do it so seamlessly, he finishes probably, it's probably quicker for him to finish than for him to start because of the planning he puts into it. So my question to you, Amy, is you strike me as being very much like Garrett, as being a very good finisher. So are you? Would you put yourself in that category on projects, or does it depend on the project? Because I would see you as being like Garrett and being like a good starter too. But I would think that, even how we work together, you push for a good close and a good documentation and a system. So how would you categorize yourself?
Interesting. Um, and I appreciate that you think I'm a finisher. I think it depends on the project. I
Okay.
really do. Like the projects that are easy to me, um, I am probably a good finisher. Like the things that I'm excited about that are easy, uh, then yeah, I want to wrap it up, be done. You know, have the processes. I'm a big process person. So
Right.
if I can put the processes in place to make it maintainable, I'm great. So um
Oh, so
that's a
your lady, your editor is probably helping you because she's putting a process on something you've never done before, you're not familiar with, and you react best when she's pushing you with a process. Is that a correct?
completely. And also, I don't consider myself a
Mm.
writer, and that I'm trying to write a book is so outside the box for me that I'm not, 100%. It's not in my wheelhouse. So I would say things that are in my wheelhouse, yeah, sign me up. I'll start it, I'll finish it, check. But if it's not in my wheelhouse, I'll probably not be as confident.
I'm going to find an article that I had that I was actually using with my kids on procrastination and myself, honestly, because I find that there's certain things I procrastinate on and I love to say, oh, it's because I like the pressure and I do well under fire. I mean, those are kind of excuses. They're true. Back to your point on being creative, but the reality is usually it's uncharted territory. It's wanting to get things perfect. There's a lot of different rationale for procrastination. And most of the time, once people do something, it's like, oh my gosh, why didn't I do that a long time ago? That wasn't that hard. But it's this roadblock to move on. And I don't know if it's just because those things come to the top, but I tell you, I feel like a majority of the time, I think, why didn't I do this a week ago? Why did I wait on this? This was actually kind of fun, or I had this. And I don't know, rarely is what my expectation is my experience, you know?
Right. Right. I experience that a lot with myself and with people I work with, where they overestimate when something's overwhelming.
Mhm.
We overestimate the time and energy it takes to get that thing done. So, we'll look at, like, I'm looking at this book and I'm like, I've put all this time and energy into it, and I feel like, I'm still churning. And I think if I spend some focused time on it, I'll probably be able to get it through it much faster. And that's typically what happens when I sit down with it and focus in a certain area. I
Right.
feel better about it. But when I look at the whole thing, I'm just completely overwhelmed. So it's kind of getting to that. It's a perspective, adjusting your perspective. And this article I found, it talks about adjusting your attitude um, about getting things done. And here are some of the tips. You have to
Okay.
acknowledge and accept the following: every choice has a consequence. Long lasting change comes from long term effort. Stumbling and erring are part of the process, not the into the work. And that talks to that perfection, that need to be perfect. I need to be brave and face my truths, which sometimes means answering tough questions about who I am, what actions I take, what I'm willing and not willing to sacrifice. Investing in myself is important, worth the time, money, and effort as needed. I thought those were good. I especially
Good.
resonated with the long lasting change comes from long term effort, because I'm definitely one of those people that, I just think about the project, my book. Finish is here. I'm going to finish it this spring. It's going
Right.
to be done. But like this week, I threw my hands up on Sunday and I was like, okay, I had all day Tuesday set aside to work on it and I didn't touch it because I was overwhelmed. I found other things to work on.
Right. Right. And key things that came out when you were talking, as we're talking through this
Uh-huh.
is I love the accountability partner. Okay. We both kind of talked about that.
Yeah.
Some cases, if it's something big, it might be hiring someone. Sometimes it's the baby in the stomach. Sometimes it's setting up a Zoom call, right? But
Right.
it's one thing if I put, I talked about my Fridays, if I put them on my calendar and it's just me, I wasn't actually following through on that being my day. But if I put something on my calendar or I make a promise to someone, my accountability is 100-fold in how I follow through on it. And then I loved your strategy because depending on what it is, it might be a different strategy on how to get there. The point on you don't see yourself as a writer, you've never written a book before. And me asking you the question about, are you that person? You said it depends on the project. Well, I think the strategy depends on what you're trying to get done, right?
Right.
And
Right.
being resourceful to say, how do I find the accountability partner? How do I get past that barrier that's not getting me there? Is it because I don't feel comfortable? Is it because I don't have enough time? What is it? And I really think the third thing that's jumping out to me is choose. And this kind of jumps out for me because this is my Achilles, but here, this gives you, I've talked about how I have my little page, okay, that I write down, has my quote for the day, and I write down my little things. And I've just started my day, and as I'm doing my little walk and getting my rings and taking my vitamins and all those things, first of all, it's funny because you'll look my past days. I've only highlighted half the things. That is so typical Sandy. But look at this. I just want you to see this, and I'll take a picture of these. Okay, so look at the days that's really long, only half. Okay, here, but then look at the one that I put 3 things down. They all got done because I chose. But on the flip side of that, choosing is your decision and nobody else's. Because when I look at my today, I'm just going to read these things.
Yeah.
Post the Buddha book onto the virtual book club. Put your Easter decorations up. Prepare the job description for client. Prep for reports and analysis for client. So again, you'd think those are the important things. Get out information for next workshop. But then I have things like make banana bread, sew, read the paper, and run and get 20,000 steps in. So my point is, some people will say, oh, I have to do work number 1, 2 in the workshop. Those are my 3. For the love of God, if you want to make banana bread and sew, choose those things, right?
Yeah.
But make sure you're realistic in it. And but you got to pick, because you're not doing this all the time. You just keep carrying forward notes, right?
Right. Right. I love that concept of making choices because you're choosing how to spend your time and you're
And it's your
choosing
time,
priorities and
right?
it's your time. And there's going to be some things that you're accountable for other people, like the things for your clients. And you probably have a deadline for those,
Right.
but you get to make decisions on your other time.
But
I
be
was
realistic,
working,
right? Be
being
realistic.
realistic and honoring who you are. That, I mean, that's the key in what you want to achieve. I was talking with a client just this morning. Well, I guess it wasn't this morning, it was Tuesday morning. We were chatting and he was talking about how he stayed up working. He owns his own business.
Okay.
So he stayed up working till 9:30 the night before. And so we were talking about his scheduling his day, and he's like, I think I just need to get up an hour earlier. He gets up at 5 a.m. right now. So he's thinking, I need to get up at 4
Wow.
a.m. to get more done. And I was like, okay, so let's take a step back. Sleep is about your health. Your health is a top priority. You're willing to give up your sleep time for all of this stuff? Or are we going to step back and
Love
keep our
it.
sleep time and honor our health and make better choices during the day? And that's what you were talking about, like making those choices and honoring that instead of just feeling like you have to do everything.
Because on the flip side, did those Zoom calls get on your calendar and are they really necessary? Okay.
Right.
So that's the other thing you get, and I'm going to pick on Garrett here. People get on his calendar. He starts something new. He promises something, and this would never happen with my husband, ever. these will get highlighted. If he has to stay up till 11 and he's fried, and then if something didn't get done quite to his satisfaction, because he is a great finisher, he won't sleep. So back to his health. And
Right.
I'll say, something's got to give. And
Right.
it doesn't need to be skiing or you're working out or watching March Madness basketball, because you love those things, but
Right.
something's got to give. You can't do all this. And Amy, I'm going to give you credit. Back to your book, I had said, Amy, Amy and I are both like, oh, let's read this book. Let's do this
Yeah.
virtual book club. And I said, Amy, I have this workshop. I got one more space. I think you'd love it, blah, blah, blah. And she thought about it. And Amy said to me, you know what? She did. And it's perfect. And she said, you know what? All my spare time is going to be on my book right now. I'm not going to take on something new. And it's like, perfect.
I know.
Perfect.
So that is the one thing I've been able to do, is set a boundary around my time.
Yep. Good for you.
Well, thank you, but I haven't been doing it. So I've been finding other stuff to do just because I'm overwhelmed, but I'll get there. I'm going to get there. Okay, let's go through some questions really super quick, because I know we're running long today. Like I told you, I could talk about this topic all day long. It's that prioritizing, having accountability, all that stuff. So, and finishing, starting and finishing.
Mhm.
Okay, how do you decide what projects are most worthy to be top of your list to finish?
I look at what makes me happy and what people I want to align with. Sometimes I get into the wrong projects and I still have to finish them, but then I learn from that and say, I always think through, how do I want to spend my time, and
Yeah.
honoring who I've made commitments to that maybe will be long-term. To me, everything's short-term until you decide it's going to be long-term.
So that's interesting. I'm a little bit different. I'm a more strategic.
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, what are the things I need to do that will set me up better in 5 years? So I keep my eye on the long term. But the problem with that is my commitment issue, like my commitment to the word finish. Like,
Mhm.
I know these are foundational things for my being strategic. Like, I know writing my book is going to set me up better for the speaking engagements, my business. Like, there's just so many pieces of it. And right now it's the opportunity to get it done. Um, so the long-term stuff are the things that I can spot as worthy, where I'm
Mhm.
not as attached to short-term stuff.
I like it. It's good. And you know what? I used to be more like that, but I'm not like that now. And it
Yeah.
might change. I think I'm on this sprint of thinking I want to make the best of every minute. I don't know why that is, where it used to be very strategic. So you can have ebbs and flows. I think it's back to honoring yourself and what you're looking for yourself at this point in time.
And like you just said, I think everyone's different and there's no wrong answer to this.
Right.
Like, you get to decide what projects are worthy for you, and if it's a long-term project, short-term, whatever it is. Okay. Final discussion question. What's the real in these situations and what's the ideal?
I'll take the real and I'll make it really quick. An inert object does not move. So if you're not going to do anything, it is not going to get done. So the real is you have to do something. So whether it's a strategy, an accountability partner, or saying taking it off your list because it's something you've decided you don't want to do, but just thinking about it and having it tabled there and collecting dust, it's not going to get done.
I love that. You have to do something, for something to change, you have to do something different,
You
right?
have to do something.
Um, I'm going to
What's the
say the ideal is, remind me again why you're doing this. I have this posted at my desk.
Oh, I like that.
I have like 4 notes, and I do this with my clients and myself. Whenever I'm like feeling a little bogged down, remind me again why I'm doing this.
I like that.
My purpose? It goes back to your why. What's the
Right.
why? So
What's
I
the
think
why?
that's the ideal, is keeping your focus on why you're doing it. And if you can't answer that and it's not a good answer, then you need to not do it. Right.
Right. Right. Love it. Perfect.
All right. So this wrap question I completely love. Um, what would be in your perfect Easter basket? What's yours, Sandy?
Okay, let's see. I'm going to say this is so that doesn't mean that I have to be on a diet or anything, right?
No, that's
no
not
doubt. Okay,
perfect.
so for candy, I would take a salted nut roll, um, a few jelly beans, not a lot. I take a few jelly beans, maybe a little bit of white chocolate, um, and caramel would be my candies. Uh, you know what? Like little decorations, some stationery, some gel pens. Um, Gosh, if I was little, I'd take paper dolls. I loved paper dolls with all the dresses and things like that. Um, some postage stamps with all different kinds of cute little recognition or, different things, and a book. That would be mine. And I probably, oh, you know what? Maybe a cute little new necklace. Doesn't have to be
Yeah.
expensive, or bracelet. Okay, I better stop. I'm being greedy now. How about you?
You are like, I love your basket. So when I read this question, I came up with one thing, and
Oh,
it was the Reese's peanut butter eggs. I'm like, that would completely make me happy if I had those in my basket.
when Garrett and I got groceries, we have a couple of them on my on our counter, which
Yeah,
I'm leaving for him because he's more the sugar person.
right.
Do you still do baskets for your kids?
Oh, yes, I do. Last year, everybody was home because it was COVID. And
Right.
so we hadn't had an Easter with everybody. And we hid eggs, plastic eggs with money
Mhm.
around the house.
Nice.
When we counted them, we put $20 bills, $10 bills, quarters. We put everything in there.
Fun.
And it was actually kind of funny. I think we miscounted because we still haven't found 2 eggs. And
Great.
I completely had forgotten about that until you just asked, but we went through the whole process and we looked and looked for those 2 eggs and never found them. So I think we must have just miscounted the
Or they,
original
or they're
set.
older. Gosh, I can't even talk. Or they will show up when you decide you're going to move to Florida or Texas or
Right, right,
something.
right,
All
right.
right,
You're like,
everybody, happy Easter. I think this will go right before Easter, right? Or close,
yeah,
maybe a week before. But
right.
get your Easter baskets ready. Make yourself an Easter basket. Maybe that's what we can challenge each other with. Let's get our own Easter basket, not just for everybody else, and hide money or beer for the grown-up kids. So,
Right, right.
all right, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.